It's my pleasure to introduce to you Kristen Sukra, who is president of I think it's president, right, of Reliant Studios out of Lincoln. And I'm going to let Kristen introduce her team. We're thrilled to have them here today to walk us through some tips and insights on how to share your story through video. Kristen.
There we go. Okay, so we are excited to be here today. As Melissa said, I'm Kristen Sukra, the president at Reliant Studios. My background is in counseling. So we approach video from kind of a counseling, journalism, and film perspective. And we work with a ton of nonprofits, helping them to share their stories with the world. So we're excited to be here today. This is Jared. He is our director. He's been with us for 10 years, and he works on most projects with us. So he's going to share some of his expertise today. And then this is Allie Grummert. She is our Director of Operations for Nonprofit Film School. So over the years at Reliant, we started doing a lot of these kinds of trainings, and so we put them together online into a film school, which is like a 21-week course, not week, 21 courses. 21 videos. Yes, that helps you all do videos better yourself. So thank you for having us. We're excited to be here today.
Okay, like Kristen said, Nonprofit Film School, our goal is teaching nonprofits how to create in-house videos and tell stories and move people to action. So it's an entirely online course, but essentially took our workshops that we would do as a small team and expand that to where anybody can learn those skills themselves. So why video? You can spend your time doing Facebook posts or email marketing. You can do all those things together, but we're going to just go through a few different facts about video that might really help prioritize it for you when it comes to marketing, outreach, and promoting your events. So first of all, visual storytelling. Video is helpful for endearing your audience, putting a face to your organization, bringing them to the front lines. So for instance, say you are maybe a homeless shelter, it's showing people the work that you're doing, not just telling them. I literally just said that. There we go. I know my presentation. Yeah, and ultimately moving people to action. So as much as we like to think that people are moved by the things that we logically know, a lot of what moves us is emotion. And so being able to tell those stories and bring people to front lines really builds that up to help move people to act in some way. So whether that's signing up to be a volunteer or donating or coming to an event, what is it you want people to think, do, or feel? And we'll get into some of that too. Video is helpful for viewer engagement. These are some really interesting statistics. So social media posts that include images result in 650% more engagement than those without. We will make the slides available to you afterwards, so don't feel like you have to take notes. Social media posts with video attract 3 times more clicks than posts without. And that includes things like boomerangs or GIFs as well, not just traditional video as well. And then landing pages with videos lead to 800% more conversions. So you'll see people actually take that action. And then video as a marketing tool is really helpful because you're able to capture your message succinctly, create consistent messaging, knowing that anybody who's watching that video is getting the same message every time, no matter who's showing it to them or where they're seeing it. And then reaching audiences on multiple platforms, whether that's through email, through Facebook, on YouTube. And so there are lots of different ways that you can implement video. So we'll go through some of those. But first, the 2 types of videos that we talk about in Nonprofit Film School. You're about to see Kristen. It's got to be double vision.
Well, there are 2 distinct ways you should be capturing video for your organization. The first way is what we like to call cinematic gold. These are the in-the-moment, right place at the right time videos. Think of Charlie Bit My Finger or the sneezing baby panda. And the second type of video is more of a planned video. These are videos that are planned and executed with a specific goal and audience in mind. Both approaches to capturing video are important and serve a purpose. The cinematic gold videos require less preparation and more of a mindset of intentionality and simply being ready. Planned videos are also vital, and because they take up so much more of your time and resources, they should definitely be executed with purpose.
So the different ways that you can implement video, especially more on the planned side of things, like we said, you can capture moments as they happen, which is fantastic for a live event, or capturing that footage and then using it in a video shortly after. But if you're planning your videos, ways that you can implement it would be through sharing testimonials, promoting an upcoming event, live event coverage, thank you videos, which I'll even plug this too for Big Give. You can create your thank you video for before the event's even over, or before the event even happens, and then plug in your data, with how much was raised or how many people were affected afterwards, and then send that out after Big Give. Funding a need. So if you have a program page, multiple programs you're trying to fund, this way you could really focus on each individual one and the people whose lives are affected by that. And ultimately, promoting Big Give. So leading up to the event, the day of the event, and like I said, a thank you video afterwards.
Yay. Okay, so now we're going to get really practical, and we're going to talk a lot about how to find your best stories. So there's really two steps to this. It's creating an effective messaging strategy, and then we'll take you through the story finding process that we use at Reliant that you guys can use for Fremont area Big Give as well for your videos. So an effective messaging strategy, what does that look like when you're producing a video? It's pretty simple. We're going to look at 4 things. The first one is to make sure ahead of time that you know your goals for the video. A lot of people produce a video and then it doesn't do anything for them and they're confused by that afterwards, but we have found that this is usually because they didn't set goals for the video ahead of time. So make sure you know the reason you're producing a video. Get that crystal clear before you ever start looking for your stories. Next, make sure you know your audience. And don't be afraid to segment audiences out either. Not everyone responds to the same thing. So for the purposes of Fremont area Big Give, make sure you know the audience that you want to reach with your messaging. So know your goals, know your audience. Then center your messaging around one big idea. And this one I think is tricky for nonprofits in particular. A lot of times, especially when we're producing videos, people want to add more and more and more and more. Yes, like we have to highlight this and this and this and this, which is great. It's great that everyone's excited about it, but what it ends up doing is confusing the viewer. In the end, they're not sure exactly what they saw. It kind of waters down the one big idea. So figure out what your one big idea is ahead of time and make sure everything that's in your video supports that.
Yeah, it's asking a lot for anybody to try and watch even just one 5-minute video and take everything away from it that you want them to. I mean, we see this time and time again with feedback from clients. They've got all these little points that they want to hit, that they want to make sure they get in there, but at the end of the day, yeah, you throw so much at an audience, not everything's going to stick to the board. So yeah, finding that one big idea, just the one takeaway that you want them to know about you and what you do, that's it. Just keep it simple.
Keep it simple. And this is especially important when you're asking someone to do something because of what they watched. If you're just producing an overview video, pack it in, that's fine. But if you want to move someone to action, they have to know exactly why they're doing the action and what the action is that they're doing. So at the end of centering your message around one big idea, make sure that you determine what you want that call to action to be ahead of time. So once you have your messaging strategy in place, you can really start going out and finding your stories. So, well, actually, I forgot, we're gonna do a workshop today, which is so much fun. This is so much better than me just talking at you guys. So grab your folders, you should each have one in front of you, and if you don't, let us know and we'll bring one to you. So there's a page in there that
2 pages, it'll be on the right side.
starts with this.
Effective messaging strategy.
Yeah, so we're gonna take 5 minutes and just fill this out. So it's exactly what we just went through. So it's, what is the goal of a video that you'd like to produce? Who is your audience? What do they like? What do they respond to? What gets them excited? What would your video's one big idea be? And then finally, if you're asking someone to do something, what would your call to action be? So we'll just take 5 minutes and go through that.
All right, if you want to wrap it up, Would anyone or a couple people want to share what they came up with for their Big Give video?
Anybody want to
any-
brag about what they do?
Yeah. Call me to act right now. What do you want me to do? No, I'm just, yeah. So we can share an example with you. We filmed for a college in Selma, Alabama, and I just think it would be helpful to hear an example. So the college, the video call to action was education changes lives.
That's the one big idea.
That's the one big idea, sorry. And then the call to action being to go to this particular URL address. So it can be as simple as that, to donate. They were doing a capital campaign. But not every video might be that. It might be, share this video with someone who might be interested. It can be a variety.
Instead of sharing all of the degree programs, that the school has to offer, et cetera, which is impressive for this little university in the South, they just chose to focus on the lives that had been changed because they attended the school. So that was what Ellie said, the one big idea being education changes lives, and then at the end of the video, just a simple call to action, go to our website, donate one thing. You don't have to do 10 different things. So.
Yeah. That gives purpose to the story that you're telling. So you're not just telling a story, you're making sure that the message is clear and that you're calling them to act.
Yes. Okay, so the next step after you've created your messaging strategy is how do you go about finding these stories that might be good stories to tell? So we always say start with 3. So think of 3 different stories. Think of a story that's moved you personally, maybe someone who's had a defining moment in their lives thanks in part to your organization. And finally, always look for people who are able to display emotion. And this doesn't necessarily have to mean tears, just people who are able to get passionate and feel so that translates through the camera to the viewer. So those are the most important things in finding your stories.
Yeah, finding those people that can actually articulate and get your point across is really important, because one of the first steps we take with clients when they come on board with us to do a video is we ask them that very question. It's like, hey, give us a list. Give us some people that you think can speak to what you guys are about. And sometimes more often than not, they think they know the perfect person.
Right.
They think, oh yeah, this person is well-versed. You get them in an elevator, they can give you the pitch of a lifetime and sell you on anything, but you put them in front of a camera, and maybe that doesn't really come across. Maybe the emotion really isn't there. They might have all the information, but if they're not gonna engage, if that's not gonna really come through the lens to your viewer on the other side, then you really haven't found the right person. You need to keep looking. And so when we ask a client, come back with a list of 5 to 10 people, we're not gonna put 5 to 10 people on camera. We are just gonna wanna put at most maybe 3. But we want those best 3, and they may not be the ones that instantly jump to the top of your mind. They could be those people that just kind of like dig away and dig away and dig away and chip at what you guys are all about. And given the opportunity, they can really be kind of the best voice in your company or organization.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
really dig to find those people who aren't just the common people in your group, but the people that might have something more to say that you just aren't aware of.
Yeah.
And I want to say too, this might not necessarily be people who have benefited from your organization directly. These could be volunteers. These could also be other donors, which is really cool because volunteers and donors are super unbiased. They can volunteer anywhere, they can give anywhere, but they chose to give to your organization. Why is that?
Okay, so we'll take a couple quick minutes. Yeah, do you have a question?
Yes. So what are your thoughts on, so last year we participated in the campaign.
Yep.
And we had some videos, but also 2 testimonies.
Okay.
And one of them was just so natural and raw, and she stumbled a little bit, but it was just beautiful. So what are your thoughts on, we were thinking we need to start off fresh, but I would love to keep her message, but to
Sure.
repeat that again a second year.
Oh, absolutely.
Really?
You can definitely repeat it again a second
Maybe
year.
it's the same video again.
Yeah, I think
Yeah, if you feel you got more miles out of that video,
use it.
yeah.
I think it kind of connects with people in a different way too, even a year later. So even if people have seen it before, I think it's completely fine to use it
sometimes
again.
Those people who really talk from the heart that aren't the
Yes.
most polished, yeah,
It's the best.
They're your best salesmen, really.
Yeah.
So the ums, the stumbling, the tripping over the words, the having that
It's
double
endearing.
back, it's endearing, and yeah, you can cover it with multiple cameras if you do kind of an elaborate shoot and edit
Oh, it's
around
pretty
and stuff.
basic.
But yeah, keeping it basic keeps it real at the same
Yeah.
time, and that's great.
So, okay, take a couple of minutes and just think of 3 potential people. It's on the back side of the sheet that you did the messaging strategy on. Okay, so for time, I think we'll break. And this is obviously something you can take back and do yourselves too. But hopefully you came up with a couple of stories that could be good for your video. So now that you've come up with kind of 3 different possibilities of stories that you could tell, the next thing that we do at Reliant is we pre-interview anyone that we're considering putting on camera. And you might say, oh, this is going to be really hard though. What do I tell the people who aren't chosen? So it's all kind of about managing expectations up front. We always tell people, we never even mention a video. We just say, we're looking for stories. We're gathering stories for our organization. And would you be willing to share yours so that we can, kind of know what stories are out there? We sit down with people, we talk with them. We actually bring either our iPhones or a little home video camera and even record the pre-interviews, which make wonderful notes for as you're shaping your production. And you see how people do on camera, which is priceless. So the pre-interview discovers, first of all, as Jared was saying earlier, does someone have a story to tell? Sometimes maybe you've heard a story secondhand, but when you sit down and you meet with that person face to face, you learn that maybe that's not really their story at all. I remember one incident, we went to Nepal and we weren't able to pre-interview anyone. And we sat down with this little boy who they had told us had this one particular story. Do you remember this?
Vaguely, yeah.
Yeah, and this poor kid, he was like, I have no idea what you're talking about. That's not my story at all. We were in a children's home. And so we kind of lost like a production day based on a story that wasn't really the story. So does someone have a story to tell? Next, and this is really important, this all ties back to that messaging strategy. Maybe you found a great story, but it doesn't support the goals of this particular video. That's okay, you can use it in multiple ways later, but make sure you don't just try to make it work for your video because it's not going to work. So make sure the story that you choose supports the goals.
And that's another thing, like with all these stories that you're collecting kind of in the pre-production phase, this is just all great content that you can use later on down the road. So you just hold on to it. You're just creating pretty much a file of all these things that you can go back to and use later on when the time comes.
Blogs, newsletters, whatever. You'll end up with your story vault, which is awesome. And finally, probably the most important, as we've said a few times, you're able to see whether or not a person can emote on camera. We started doing pre-interviews actually because we had this really traumatic event happen a few years ago.
Was this at the bank?
Yeah,
it was at
it was
a bank.
a credit union in a small town in Nebraska, and they just told us who they wanted to put on camera. There was 3 people, they each told one part of the story, and we showed up, ready to film, met the people ahead of time at that day, and they all seemed like they'd do great. We got through the first 2, they did really well. Sat down with the 3rd girl, and she was so outgoing, but the second we turned the camera on, she just totally shut down.
It was like musical chairs with people trying to engage her, like,
Yeah.
like I can't get her to talk.
Maybe
wants
you
to try.
can.
So.
It was 2 hours, and it was really tragic in the end because there was nothing usable. So they were missing a critical piece of their story because we couldn't use hers. And she had told people, look for me in this commercial, and then she wasn't able to be a part of it. And we were like, never again. Never, ever again. So that's why we take a little camera with us as well to our pre-interviews, because it really does. If people are going to be nervous on camera, they're going to be nervous for that little camera too. So bring a camera with you if you can, or just your iPhone. We do that too. Okay, then once you do your pre-interviews, you can choose your story. Make sure it aligns with your messaging strategy. Make sure you have someone who can emote on camera, and pick someone. Or, as Jared said as well, don't be afraid to keep looking until you find the right one. I think this is also vitally important. If you're putting your time and energy into doing a video, you want to make sure that you're doing it right. So don't just settle, keep looking.
Yeah. There have been a couple of projects. We work with a home health care company in Lincoln called Tabitha, and we delayed a project years ago for months until we knew we had the right stories from both the caregivers and the ones receiving support. It was an instance where, yeah, we could have gone through production, we could have gotten some generic stories and hit upon what they wanted, but we felt at the end of the day and at the end of that production, we felt more right for having waited till we got exactly what we needed than just going with what was available and what could have worked but wasn't the best for the messaging.
Yep. And then don't be afraid to put an action item on the end. Don't be afraid to ask for something. So How do you move someone from insight to action? There's a little delay, sorry. You want to make sure that you emphasize the present. Give them something they can do with what they just saw. So you don't want them to have to remember it a week from now. You can do something now in this moment. You can go to our website, sign up for this, donate here, give them, or emphasize the present. And then give them one clear instruction. You don't want them to choose from a list either. That ends up meaning you have to start processing a decision, which can also slow down the action. Or delay it. Yes, indefinitely. Yeah. So give them one clear action item and emphasize the present. Those are the two things with insight to action. And my favorite section of all, so hopefully you like it as much as me, but probably not because I'm a nerdy counselor, is interviewing someone on production day. This is so much fun. So how do you know that you might have the best story, but you also want to be the person that connects with that person to draw the story out on camera? And we have even switched interviewers on production day too. If you're not the person that's connecting with the person whose story is being told, don't be afraid to pull someone else in to be the one to draw that story out. It's really important that that person feels comfortable and safe and that you click personality-wise as well. So before you ever sit down to do an interview, make sure that you draft your open-ended questions. And this is probably a duh, but it's the opposite of closed-ended questions. And closed-ended questions are questions that give a yes or no answer. So you want to make sure that your questions that you write up ahead of time really allow the interviewee or the storyteller to clarify their own thoughts and feelings. So questions like, tell me about, so what was it like when, things like that really help them open up and feel comfortable. Know your emotional touch points ahead of time too, and work these into your questions. So this is also the beauty of the pre-interview. You get to learn where this person feels emotion in their story, so that when you come back to it on production day, you can draw that emotion out on camera. And people often ask us, so if that emotion pours out during the pre-interview, is it gone? Do you lose it during production day? Possibly. So when you're doing pre-interviews, it's really important that if you see someone start to get emotional about something, we just move on and ask another question and kind of interrupt that emotion so it doesn't fully develop, just really change kind of the course of whatever they're talking about to something else. So then you can watch back through your pre-interviews, you can see, oh, I could see they're kind of getting emotional here. Let's make sure that on production day we ask him this question and allow that emotion then to come out on camera.
Because otherwise they kind of use that.
Yeah. And yes, as I'm saying this too, I know that this can sound like you're exploiting someone. So you have to back up. You really want to work on yourself first. You want to work on your concern for them, their situation. You never want to push someone too far. You are giving them a platform to empower them to share their stories, to help so many other people that are coming along behind them. And it's important that they know that up front, that the reason you're there trying to get their story on camera is to help so many other people. And you're asking them to be vulnerable to help those people as well. So that is first and foremost the thing that we emphasize in any production that we go into. It is never about us and what we need. It's about taking care of their stories and sharing it in a way that will empower them. So that's key. Work on yourselves first before you do any of this. Use restatements. This is another great interview technique that really helps make it feel like you're just having a conversation with a friend. When you just sit down with a list of questions, it can feel like a Q&A, and that can intimidate people. They're trying to answer correctly. They're trying to figure out what you want them to say, and they want to say it right for you. So if the technique of using restatements helps to interrupt that flow of QA. So say someone's talking on and on about how much they love their job. Instead of when they finish, you just asking another question, you can reflect back to them so it sounds like you really love your job. And at first I always thought people were gonna be like, yeah, I just told you that. Not true at all. People actually open up even more with those restatements because they feel like you just heard what they said and now they want to tell you about it again. So use restatements. And last but not least, peel the onion. So this comes from Fritz Perls. He was the founder of Gestalt therapy. And so this is an old counseling technique that really helps you get to the core of someone's story. It basically says the first time you ask someone a question, the response that you'll get from them is really the cognitive response. It's the thing that they're most comfortable with sharing. They've told this story 10 times. That's how they're going to tell it to you. So you kind of come back halfway through the interview, ask them the same questions again, maybe in a slightly different way. And the second time, usually where they'll go is to the emotion part of the story, which is awesome because that's what you want. You want people to be able to connect with their story through the emotion. And this is where most people stop. But there's actually a third layer that's the most profound layer, and that is where if you come back to those questions one last time, you'll get people's response that ties their story together in a way that creates closure and hope. So the best way to end an interview is to ask, so what did this mean to you? And that is often what we use for the closing lines of our video because it's their story. They told it logically, they kind of told it emotionally, and then they say what it meant to them. So it's the third and most deep layer. Yeah. So now,
All right.
capturing your video.
It's finally my time to talk. So we are going to go over understanding composition, using your smartphone, editing your video, and simple editing software. So first up, I'm just going to say, whoops, I skipped past the video. I'm really great at this, so this is why they don't let me do this often.
And you said this is in a PowerPoint that we get a copy of? Yeah. Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
So you have the videos. Jared, do you
Yeah, you have to jump back further.
Yeah, here, I got it. We're going. It's going. I'm not doing anything.
Little keynote.
And
Little slide.
It'll do it maybe itself.
will it?
Yeah, push it once.
And
Okay, now don't touch it.
a frame is a frame. Whether on your TV, computer, laptop, tablet, or phone, there are 4 sides to it and some stuff happens in the middle of it all. Simple enough. Now, when creating that stuff for the middle, there's a lot to consider. Making sure you have a good composition is the difference between engaging your audience or losing them. A bad composition can quickly distract a viewer, and once you've lost them, they're hard to get back. Let's take a look at some of the things you'll need to keep in mind. Rule of thirds. This is a design principle that might as well be written in stone because artists have been using it for centuries, and it's something we've all seen, whether it's in movies, documentaries, TV shows, or even paintings. It's achieved by dividing the frame into thirds. To be exact, and sound kind of smart, here is a definition on the matter. The rule of thirds proposes that a useful approximate starting point for any compositional grouping is to place major points of interest in the scene on any of the 4 intersections of the interior lines. All right, now in easier to understand terms, it's basically tic-tac-toe. Divide the frame evenly into thirds, both vertically and then horizontally. You'll now see 4 intersecting points in your frame where the lines cross. Those points are the points of visual interest and are where you should place the subject of your frame. Traditionally, if you're doing an interview, you'll place the eyes of the interviewee on either of the top 2 points of the frame. This will also help with making sure that you don't have too much or too little headroom, depending on your frame. So there it is, simple as that.
Simple as that.
Do I need to press the button again?
Yes.
All right. It's really fun watching yourself projected like that.
Can you explain why, you've done it on several of the films where you do the side view where you're talking and we're looking at your side?
Yeah, so that's basically, it's done for a number of reasons, one of which is just to give yourself some coverage in editing. Because as somebody's telling their story, like we mentioned earlier, you're going to trip over some words, you're going to stumble. And if you really want to smooth out and maybe cut away some of the fat because maybe there's some stuff that they're talking about that you just don't need, having a second angle like that that's like tighter and from the side, that's not a jarring cut, it's just moving a little bit over here and going in a little tighter. It feels like it's just a natural progression. And it's just from a different angle. Adds a little bit of visual interest too. So it's not like one static shot the whole time. And I'm sorry,
Yeah,
were you
it
gonna add
kind of avoids like okay, now I'm making a cut, but this the shot is the same.
changes.
Yes.
So like
Okay, got it.
fading, or it kind
Got
of
it.
just allows you to cut to a different angle.
Because if you just have that one shot to work with and you have to start like cutting it and jumping to like other sections, that's called a jump cut, and audiences know it. Now, actually, in this day and age, with the way people produce YouTube videos and the channels you subscribe to, that's actually becoming a pretty popular thing to do. People just, they just have this one shot of them talking straight to the camera, and they do jump cuts all over the place. But, yeah.
And it's just them and them and them in the same spot. Yeah.
Exactly. But when you watch, like TV shows and movies still and things like that, the jump cut's still not regularly used. And especially when you're trying to engage somebody emotionally and want them to connect, having things that kind of take them out of what your message is, you kind of want to avoid that. So yeah, we'll usually set up 2. Sometimes we'll have 3 camera angles going. So,
So having that helps eliminate that distraction.
yep.
Especially when you're not a producer or like a cameraman. Or
Right.
something like that.
Yeah.
2 people with their phones doing the same
But
thing.
you might be
Might be a
really,
good idea.
you might be really thankful for that in editing.
That is a great idea.
Yes, I was going to say, your editor or yourself, if you're the one editing, you will be so thankful just to have a little bit more coverage and something else to cut to.
Well,
So,
and even if one camera then is out of focus, you at least have a second angle that maybe isn't, especially when you're using an iPhone. Sometimes people lean back or go forward, and it loses focus for a minute, and you can cut to something else.
yep. All right, so using your smartphone. Actually, small sidetrack here. Did anybody hear about a movie that came out last year called The Florida Project? It was a small independent film, so if you haven't, that's okay. One person has. All right, well, you actually may hear a little bit more about it next week when the Oscar nominations come out, because it's clearly going to pick up a few. And I only bring that up because the filmmaker behind it, his name is Sean Baker. The film he did right before this one is called Tangerine. And you can actually watch it if you have Netflix, like right now at home. And he shot the entire movie Tangerine using an iPhone 5, the whole thing. So, my point in all of that is what is in front of you, what's in your pocket, what you have with you all the time is an incredibly powerful piece of filmmaking. And let's face it, probably not a lot of us have an iPhone 5 anymore, if not a 6, up to a 10. So you have something that's even more powerful than an award-winning filmmaker who really launched his career just pulling out an iPhone and telling a really engaging story that like swept the Sundance Film Festival and everything like that. So you've got the tools to do what you want to get your message out there. That's the point.
If there was 2 phones, so if you do the 2 different angles, do they have to be the same type of phone?
No,
Okay.
I mean, ideally, yes, because, if you jump from maybe an Android to an iPhone, it's going to look a little bit different. It can be the same thing as going from like a Sony camera to a Canon camera. The science inside isn't exactly the same. The way they interpret colors isn't exactly the same. But yeah, again, with technology rapidly changing, everybody having access to everything, there's a lot more that can be forgiven.
Yeah.
So that's the key, which segues perfectly into the first thing, is consider holding your smartphone horizontally. I'm a big proponent of that. Granted, it's so easy to pull out your phone and just hold it vertically because that's the way it's designed to be held. That's the way it fits best in your hand. But just remember, when you're holding it vertically like that, and if anybody's watching what you shot on anything other than their phone, you're just giving them a sliver of what they could be seeing. And again, us as humans, we see huge panoramas naturally. And so just remember that if you were watching something on somebody's smartphone shot vertically here, you'd just be giving them the middle of the frame when you could be giving them the whole rest of it. So consider. Obviously, it's pretty commonplace to shoot vertical video. People see it all the time.
Time and place for it.
Yeah. Always use 2 hands when holding your phone. Just, simple thing. As Kristen is demonstrating there, it's just more stability. Because, it's not the ergonomic design to be held that way. So,
You get a little shaky.
yeah, you get a little shaky holding it for too long. And you're going to want to limit your movement. So holding it there, kind of close to your body, giving yourself a little bit of support. Because if somebody is like really, really, giving you their like deepest, most heartfelt story for your organization, if you start getting tired or fatigued and you start shaking everything, people are going to start noticing that a lot more than the message. And again, you just want to keep people watching your video. You want them, yes?
And they make amazing tripods that you can
put
Yes.
your
Yes,
smartphone
exactly.
in.
There's actually little microphones that you can buy
Oh, yeah.
that plug right into your iPhone or smartphone as well.
The market for third-party accessories for smartphones to really, turn your little phone into kind of a powerhouse filmmaking studio, it's amazing. There's tons of options out there. So yeah, if you just look into it a little bit, hey, you want a little mount to like clip onto anywhere, you want to get a third-party microphone, or even just a little light to clip on there, yeah, it's there, and it's a lot cheaper than, yes, what your budget may allow in investing in like really top-of-the-line prosumer and professional cameras and gear like that. All right, and
Can I ask one question?
oh yeah, no problem.
How many people are you thinking are in this room? Because you're like, you got someone with 2 hands, you're like someone asking the questions, or like how many people are you thinking?
It kind of depends on what your resources that you have that are available. It's
Typically,
nice.
We like to recommend having 2 people there. One person to focus solely on the equipment, and then the other person, all they have to worry about is the story.
So you got one person with this, like, if you got 2
Oh, 2
phones and you
phones.
got.
Use a tripod.
Okay.
Use
Yeah.
a
I like
tripod.
the idea of the
Yeah.
tripod.
And then the
That's a
person
great
can pop
idea.
back between the 2 cameras too. You don't have to sit behind your iPhone the whole time. You can kind of look at it, move to the other one, check it.
2 times.
Yeah.
And then the
If
other
you have
person
too
can
many
just be
people
story.
involved,
Because
it
then
can
it's like-
change the story.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, too many cooks in the kitchen.
We
Yep.
always say too, this is kind of just another trick. Whoever is the person asking the questions, whoever the storyteller should be your best friend. So Jared doesn't really interact with the people coming in to tell their stories. He's focused on the equipment, but I'll meet the person at the door. I'll be the one making sure they feel comfortable. I'll be the one getting them settled in the chair. You kind of become that person, so everything else is tuned out around them.
Become like the ally in the room.
Yeah.
All right, so then yeah, the final thing, get close to who's talking, because yeah, if you don't have a microphone attached to your iPhone, our phones, they're not built with like the best of the best equipment, even though obviously its primary purpose is for talking. It's for talking up close, because the mics on there aren't very directional, they're omnidirectional, so they're picking up everything around us. So if I'm here talking to Allie, holding my phone here, yeah, it's gonna pick up everything in between and around us. So yeah, get in
Hair
close.
handling.
Yep,
When you're picking a place to film, always listen when you walk in the room.
yep.
Can you hear them? Like the music.
Yeah.
uh,
And your
right,
camera
if
will
the air
pick it
conditioning
up.
kicks on, like it will start to pick up on that.
Yeah, the more you do this, the more you kind of become in tune with your surroundings. Yes.
Just wondered if you could, couple of suggestions as far as microphones.
Okay, yeah, well, so the microphones we use are actually like the brand we like are called Audio Technica. But again, they're designed specifically for like professional cameras and audio recorders that go into things separately. But if you're looking just for a little microphone to go onto your iPhone or your Android, yeah, there are a lot out there.
Yeah.
Fortunately,
Just
I can't.
I would just recommend doing a quick Google search and reading
So is it
reviews.
just gonna be something that's
Yeah,
located right there at?
Yeah.
And it would just go into the jack.
Yeah.
It has a longer range
Okay,
than just.
this directional work.
Yeah, exactly. And you're going to be wanting to look for probably specifically a shotgun type of microphone. A shotgun microphone is usually a longer one than, say, a handheld, because again, this is more omnidirectional. But a shotgun microphone, it's kind of the longer ones, and they do make them for iPhones and smaller cameras. And what it does, and the difference between it is it's just got a more directional pattern that it's picking up from. It's more narrow. So yeah, other people can be talking around you, but its field of pickup pattern is straight ahead. So when looking for microphones for your devices or things like that, yeah, you may want to look for a shotgun mic. And so when you're interviewing somebody and you've got your camera kind of pointed at them, whether it's your phone or whatever, as long as that mic is pointed right at them, you know you're on target. So.
We also have loud mic, clip-on mics with like a 60-yard cord on them that you can plug into. which is
Yep.
kinda nice.
Yeah. I was gonna say, yeah, lavalier microphones, they're the ones that you always see, newscasters wearing when people go on talk shows. They're just little clip-on ones. Yeah, actually, this, in fact, is a lavalier microphone as well. So those are really nice. Now, if you can get a wireless one, great. Sometimes, yeah, there you have cords, and then you have to start dealing with that as well, which, may or may not be a problem. But, yeah, those are another good option to have. All right. So, using your smartphone, we're going to do an exercise. So everybody, go ahead and get out your smartphone. It's hard to believe that anybody would come here without one, so I think everybody has theirs. And we're going to take 5 to 10 minutes to do this exercise, if we've got time for it. All right, so what you're going to do, find a partner. It can be somebody you came here with. It could just be somebody you know. Yeah, you can certainly come grab one of us. You're going to go somewhere, and you don't have to limit yourself to this room. Like I said, we're going to take 5 to 10 minutes. Maybe go out in the hall. There's a lot of area out there. Frame up a shot, and you're just going to do a quick interview with them, and you're going to ask them this one question: why do you do what you do? This is also just a great question we love asking anybody, because it does, again, get to the heart of the matter. It's like, why do you get up every single day and go to the job that you love, or help with the organization or nonprofit you're involved with? So 5 to 10 minutes, find somebody, find a spot, frame up the shot, and just take turns asking this question to each other.
And Allie wraps it.
I wrap it up.
Okay.
So the editing software in their folders is just the editing software.
This is awesome that everybody is engaged and talking to each other. And even if you didn't have the best answer, the fact that you guys are talking and having a dialogue with exactly what it is you do, I mean, this is really how the ball starts getting rolled. And now you've kind of put yourself in the place of where you're going to be putting other people who are going to start sharing their stories for you guys. So you know what it's like to be on both sides kind of the camera now. So that's really neat. This was really great to see. Okay, so now that you've got that, the next phase is editing your video. Things to keep in mind. Kristen touched upon this already. Keep it short and sweet. When I see a runtime of like 2.5 to 3 minutes, I'm like, perfect. I've got time for this. Somehow in my brain, when I see like a video that's like over 5 minutes or something, I'm just like, nope, not gonna happen today, folks. Just gonna move on. I don't know why it is, because 5 minutes really isn't that much longer or anything like that, but attention spans with us just being constantly inundated with so much media everywhere we go, and the fact that, yeah, we've got our phones, our devices with us, and we can just look at it and move on to the next thing so fast, it's really changed the way we digest and how quickly we digest things and just move on to the next. So keep it short and sweet, because the only thing you need to do is keep your one big idea in mind. Again, the one takeaway you want anybody watching your video to walk away with. What is that? Just focus on that. Everything else falls away to the side. Yeah, maybe you've got kind of a great little subplot, another little anecdote that somebody can share, but man, if it's not going to support the main thing, just get it out of there. Save it for the next video when that can actually be your one big idea. Then leave them with just a simple end screen with your logo and a call to action. Keep it short, give them the one big idea, and then get out of there and leave them with your contact information. Those are kind of the 3 things you want to do with your video.
So do you mean with the end screen, so at the end, let's say you just did a testimony and now you want to do a call to action because they've been moved by the testimony?
To find out more,
Right.
visit this website, call this number.
And is it like a slide, or are you
Yeah.
saying?
It can be as simple as a
It
slide.
could be someone saying it. It could be text.
Yep.
You can just type in text and then fade to your logo next and leave it ended with your
I'll
logo.
have to have a student then help me with that.
Well, so in reality, we will need 2, in other words, if we plan to reuse this wonderful thing that we created, because Big Give, my assumption is we will say, go to the big,
Yeah.
Yeah.
go up and
Yeah.
do that, because we want to get mashing, but we would want to keep that for the last thing, re-edit it to say, for all other times, go to
Yeah,
our website.
just repurposing that last slide, that last thing that they see. Yep.
Could it be as simple as just donate now and having a link right there?
You can keep it a lot more generic if you want. That way it can just keep.
I don't know if we're getting enough.
And is that an easy thing to do, like a slide or something, and attach it to a video?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
not too hard with especially the editing software and the options out there for people today, which we will get to here momentarily. All right, so yeah, what are the options out there for you to then now take your cinematic gold, your pre-planned video, and actually work with it a little bit? So inside your folders, there's a sheet that Allie is holding up right there for you. And it's got a list of options for you, and I'll just talk through them really briefly here. So, Adobe Premiere Elements, What we use professionally is the Adobe Creative Cloud, and that includes Adobe Premiere Pro. Elements is basically the same thing, except it's stripped away all the thousands of overwhelming options that you really don't need. It keeps it simple. It's the tools that you need to just effectively edit a video, and yeah, it doesn't bog you down with all the other things that you really won't need. If you've got any sort of an Apple device, chances are you've got iMovie. All of us have it on our phones. It's on an iPad. Comes pretty much free with any iOS device. YouTube, believe it or not, probably easier to believe at this point that YouTube actually does allow you to edit your videos on there. It's fairly primitive, but it's there, and you have to dig a little bit. And it just kind of gives you the options to do a little trimming, like, hey, maybe like take off the beginning or the end of something, rearrange some clips very simply. But they've got a lot of other tools on there now too. They have a whole library of royalty-free music for you to use, as well as like sound effects and other things like, you know, give your video a little bit of a color enhancement. So it's got some stuff that you can use to just kind of bump up your video and the quality a little bit more. Now on to the mobile apps. There's Splice, there's Filmora Go, and there's Video Shop. All of these apps, Allie, come at a very low price of about
$3 or less.
yeah, they're very cheap, and they're pretty intuitive and user-friendly.
We often do like behind the scenes videos when we're out on production day. Our coordinating producer will just take out his phone and film some highlights of the day. And then he, who has no film background at all, he just uses Splice and puts it together on his iPhone like an hour and puts the music to it and sends it out to the world. So it's pretty simple.
She's still talking. But yeah, even with Splice, like Josh can speed up clips too, or slow-mo and all that. I did want to say, so Adobe Premiere Elements is different than like the Adobe Creative Cloud. So the Creative Suite is something that you pay for on a monthly basis or an annual basis, whereas Adobe Premiere Elements is a one-time purchase. So I looked it up today. It is $100, but that's one time, and there is, I believe, still a nonprofit discount if you can get in there and grab that. But especially that's going to give you a lot more tools than iMovie and YouTube. That way you aren't so frustrated by limitations, but it's not as overwhelming as Premiere Pro.
That is great information to add on to that. All right. I don't know why I took this because Allie's just taking it right back.
Can I have it? Okay, so what is next? So going and capturing your story, editing your video, and sharing it. So the best thing about doing this in January is you guys have some time, right? Let's do it. Okay, and so my background's in marketing, so I'm going to make sure that you actually get it in front of your audience. So embed your video to the Big Give, your own organization's donation page. You can upload your video to YouTube and then use that link, that embed code. And so I'm sure if you have any questions, the team with the foundation will help you, right? Looking to Lee. Lee says yes. So yeah, and then share your funding page to make it easy for people to donate. So that could mean that you're uploading the video directly to YouTube, so it starts playing automatically on people's news feeds, and then have a link to the donation page there. That's probably going to be more effective than just linking to the page and hoping people click on it and watch the video. And that means that it'll stay on your Facebook page for a while. You can go ahead and delete that down the road if you want, or keep it there because it's a great story. Where to promote that page? Oh, it keeps going. I'm not even clicking. Wow. Okay, so promote your funding page via email. So what we often do is we'll take a screen grab of the thumbnail for the video. We'll just impose a play button on it. You don't even have to do that. Drop that image into your email, and then when they click on it, have it take it to the funding page to actually watch the video. Unfortunately, a lot of email services won't let you just embed the video in there. And we run into that all the time because we send out videos all the time in our newsletter. Like I said, sharing it on social media. Ask your board to share it. There's an idea. Be like, okay, go share it on their own personal Facebook pages as well. And then asking volunteers. You know, that could be its own call to action on your page or through your email software if you're asking directly to your volunteers. Now please go share what's on your Facebook page. Get that out there to as many people as you can.
Also, we did a video for Tiny Hands International, and a lot of people wanted to support them but couldn't necessarily give financially. So they decided to create an event on Facebook for all of their Facebook fans, for all of their friends and family, where everyone, I think we made the logo W2, so it was Wednesday at 2 p.m., this Facebook event, everyone would come to Facebook at that time. They would post their video and everyone shared it at the same time, which was really cool. So that was kind of the best way to get it kind of viral in one moment. So don't be afraid to ask people to share it for you, because people want to be involved in what you're doing.
This is my nerd showing. Did anybody see the article come out on the algorithms for Facebook? Anyone? Yeah. So don't depend on your Facebook page. I hate to say it, and this is why, oh, my gut just drops. Because like if you've been spending all your time building up your Facebook page, it's stuff like this where Facebook can tweak their algorithm, and like unless you have super high engagement, no one's going to see your stuff anymore. So I think it's good to have it there because that's oftentimes where people go to look for more information. But definitely have your video hosted on your website even after the event. Change the end screen, whatever you might want to do with that. But yeah, get a variety of platforms. Email is going to be your best bet because nobody's changing their email address all the time. The algorithm is the same. You click send, it ends up in their inbox. So that's going to be your best bet too. Any questions? Nope. Okay. Yeah, so you can create a Facebook event to post updates throughout the day during Big Give. Posting updates, doing Facebook Live. Facebook Live kind of steps outside of that algorithm tweak because Facebook's like, we created this, please use it. So if you're on Facebook Live and you can pop in there a few times throughout the day and give updates on fundraising or tell people stories or, yeah, kind of bring them to the front lines of that day's events. And, yeah, share your videos often. You can use video for development, marketing, stewardship, recruitment, whether that's volunteer recruitment, general awareness, and more, with an underline. That's how important it is. And then, straight out of Nonprofit Film School, we are actually going to send you our project overview document. So it's very similar to the marketing strategy. And this helps you identify who your audience is, what your one big idea is, the different parts of the story arc, things that we dive into with Nonprofit Film School. And so coming to an inbox near you. If you gave us your email information, and we'll keep you connected that way. If you want to stay on our email list, you can opt in through, we have a free email course on our website. Otherwise, we'll just send an email. In there, can I say it? There will be a coupon for $200 off of Nonprofit Film School. So it's my baby, and I would love it if you'd all come be in Nonprofit Film School with me. So yeah, it's our online course that teaches nonprofits how to do video. So finding your story, developing your story arc, the rhetorical triangle, filming, interviewing, understanding cameras and equipment. It sounds like a lot. It's broken up into these 21 videos like what you saw to keep things short, sweet, and help you actually implement what you're learning. Yeah? So that'll be in your box too.
Email to you.
You should have signed in today with your email address. If you RSVP'd.
Yeah.
Yep,
Well,
and so
I gave your, but like I gave your email, that's
when
why
you
you got the
registered.
email. Yeah.
if,
Okay.
you can also just hand me your business card, and I'll make sure you get it as well. So
Or if you want to just stop by the table and jot it down, we'll make
Yeah.
sure that it gets passed along.
So we'll pass along the slides and all of that. So any questions?
I have a
Yes.
question. So you made reference in the beginning about a landing page.
Mhm.
What is that?
So a landing page is really where the purpose of it is very targeted. So instead of just taking someone to your homepage where they're going to find this events page, this Twitter feed on the side, or a recent blog post, a landing page might just be just the video and a donate button. Or it could be a page that's just about this particular gala. So a landing page will be a little bit more direct and targeted.
So instead of sending them to your general website, you send them to a specific link that's just a video and a donate button.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or a specific page on your website that just is like, ta-da.
Yep.
Yep.
Got it.
Yep. It's usually
Where you want them to land.
where you want them to land. Usually that also helps because it gives people, that continues that whole idea of what is the one action you want them to do, just makes it more targeted. Great question. Any other questions? How are we doing on time?
Couple minutes, like
Oh, yes. Oh, we do. We have time for more questions. It can be for me, Jared, Kristen.
Yeah, you can certainly come up and talk to us afterwards if you don't want to share with everybody.
So thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Yeah, thanks for having me.